Words to remember for a lifetime. Grace, mercy, peace are yours in Christ Jesus. Amen. They were set on the edge of town. Over that way was the downtown. Over heading that way was a gravel road that headed out into the countryside. On the edge, there at the edge of town, they dug a hole in the ground, set a foundation, and built up walls, stacking stones on top of each other. Why stones? Their old church didn't have stone walls on the outside. Their old church had white painted siding for the outside walls. Most of the other churches that were around were made of either the siding or had brick facades. But they chose to build with stone. I wish I knew why. But they did. And so on the edge of town, they stood out as a church built of stone. And we still stand out today. Now we're not on the edge of town, but we have our corner, and we still stand out as a church built of stone. We still stand out, easily seen by the traffic as it goes by. And maybe people wonder, we hope people wonder, what are they about? Why the stone? Our lesson would put that question a little bit different. Our lesson put the question this way. What do those stones mean? Now, we don't see the stones right now, but if we were on the outside, we would see the stones. And what do those stones around us mean? Well, they're solid, aren't they? Strong. Like our God. Solid. Strong. And like the church He gives us. Solid. Strong. Safe. And secure. These stones that are around us, they stand out to show us, to remind us, and our community around us, what our God is like. Solid, strong, to remind us and to show our community what His church is about, what His church is like, safe and secure. Now in our lesson we have a different set of stones. 12 stones, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. And our lesson, it's about 40 years, almost 40 years to the day after God led His people out of Egypt through the Red Sea. Now God is ready to deliver His people into the Promised Land. Just as the Red Sea stood in the way 40 years earlier, now the Jordan River stands in the way. And just as God delivered His people through the Red Sea, we will see God deliver His people through the Jordan River. I forgot to mention something about that Jordan River. It was springtime. And so it wasn't just a gently flowing river, but it was a river at flood stage that was flooding. And from people who have seen it at flood stage, very churning. It wouldn't be an easy stroll across the water. And so we see, just as God delivered His people through the Red Sea, now God delivers His people through the Jordan River, except we see something a little bit different. With the Red Sea crossing, what did we have? God told Moses, take your staff, raise up your arms. And as Moses did that, God sent a wind, and the wind blew, and the waters separated. This time, God doesn't tell Joshua, raise up your hands with your staff or anything like that. Instead, God gives these special instructions that the Levite priests would carry the Ark of the Covenant. That the Levite priests would carry the Ark of the Covenant and lead the way into that Jordan River. I don't remember the last time we talked about the Ark of the Covenant. I think it might be years since we've talked about the Ark of the Covenant, at least up here. So since we have it in our lesson today, and we have it again next week, as the walls of Jericho come tumbling down, it's not a bad idea to remind ourselves what that Ark of the Covenant is about. So before the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, after God delivered his people out of Egypt, he gathered them at Mount Sinai. There at Mount Sinai, God set up a covenant, a contract with his people. If you obey me, if you follow me, then out of all the people of the world, I will make you to be my people, my priests, and my kingdom. As part of that covenant contract, on the top of Mount Sinai, God gave Moses the Ten Commandments carved into stone, 2 stone tablets. And again, as part of that covenant, God gave special instructions to Moses and the people for the building of a tabernacle, a portable temple. Now, in this tabernacle, this portable temple, there was a special room called the Most Holy Place. Some of us might remember it called the Holy of Holies, God's room. In that God's room was what we're told an ark. Not like Noah's ark, but a wooden chest. Just about 4 feet long, just over 2 feet high and 2 feet wide. This wooden chest was covered with gold on the inside, covered with gold on the outside, and had a solid gold cover. And built into and onto that solid gold cover were 2 golden cherubim, angels with their wings spread out over the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark was where God met his people. For the people to go to God, they had to be right. Sin had to be paid for at the Ark of the Covenant, the mercy seat. It was at the Ark of the Covenant that God met his people. It was at the Ark of the Covenant that was God's sign to show, I am here with you, my people. And so when we have the Ark of the Covenant leading the way, not just Joshua, not just the priest, when we have the Ark of the Covenant leading the way, the message for the people was very clear. We're not just being led by some guy, but God is taking us across this river. God is taking us into the promised land. And then what happened? When the priests carrying that Ark of the Covenant stepped into the Jordan River, way upstream, miles upstream, God stopped the water. The river stopped. The water kept on flowing and it flowed away. And there was a dry path for the people to cross. I won't say that it sounds as exciting and as awesome as the Red Sea splitting. I don't think it's something that any of us want to try. Think you could do it? Suppose we could go down to the Des Plaines. Go over to the Fox. We could try something a little bit simpler and go to Bull Creek. Do you think it would work if we were to step into the river and we could make it stop? Not even at low flow, right? Much less when the river is flooded and going full stream. But God did. What do we see? It might not seem as awesome and as exciting as the splitting of the Red Sea, but we see here God do the impossible, just as he had promised. People didn't think it possible that God would get them to the promised land, but God got them there. Looking at that river at flood stage, they must have thought it impossible to get across, but God got them across and through it. He did the impossible and kept his impossible promises. And after that, God thought, it'd be good if my people would remember this. And so God put together a plan. He set a plan so that his people would be able to set up a monument and a memorial for this event, crossing the Jordan River. Now this monument, this memorial, it's not as tall as the Washington Monument in D.C. It's not as impressive as the Lincoln Memorial or Mount Rushmore. It's just 12 stones. 12 stones from the river bottom of the Jordan. God had Joshua pick 12 men, one from each of the tribes. And then when the river was stopped up, when the water was piling up north, each of those 12 men was to pick up a stone and pile it. One pile right there in the middle of the Jordan River. Each of those 12 men were to pick up a stone, carry it on their shoulders, and carry it to the camp on the west bank where the people were staying that night. Both piles, the one in the river and the one at the camp, both piles were set up as monuments, as markers to raise the question, what do these stones mean? I imagine you can see how, or imagine how that works, right? You've gone someplace and they have some sort of memorial, some sort of monument, and somebody in the car, a youngin' in the car, might say, what's that about? That's what God wanted to happen. That as families were passing by this monument, this marker, the young ones would ask, what's with this? What do these stones mean? And these markers would start a conversation. They would start a conversation. Look what our God can do. Now, what if out of all his people, God chose you to pick a stone that would show off and memorialize the greatness of God? God chose you to pick that stone to show off the greatness of God. What kind of stone would you pick? Would it be the first one you found? Would it be the easiest one to pick up out of the mud? Would it be, the lightest one to carry? I imagine we'd probably think a little bit bigger and better than that, right? If out of all the people, out of all of his people, God chose you to pick that stone that was going to show off his greatness, I imagine we would be looking for, that special stone. We'd be looking for maybe the prettiest stone, maybe the biggest stone that we could carry, maybe the one that's the most colorful that we can find. That's what we would try to do, right? But we don't always do that, do we? Sometimes with what we do for God, sometimes with what we give for God, we don't show God off in a real positive way. Sometimes what we do for God, sometimes what we give for God, sometimes we show God off as the God of leftovers. Our leftover time, our leftover energy, leftover what? Sometimes with what we do for God, sometimes with what we give for God, we show God to be the God of slop. He should be happy with what I give him. Sometimes with what we do for God or give for God, we might give people the impression that God really isn't all that big a deal in our life. Sometimes with what we do for God or give for God, instead of getting people wondering, what kind of God do they have? What gets them so moved up and inspired about God? Sometimes maybe we give people the impression, he must not be all that important. They really don't seem to care too much. And yet, even though sometimes we throw stones at God, what does our God do? Instead of forgetting us, he reaches out to us. Instead of throwing us in the river to be swept on downstream, he washes us in the water of baptism, puts his name on us, calls you his son, his daughter. Instead of crossing us out, he crosses us with Christ. He crosses out our sin, crosses out our guilt, and covers us with that perfect life of Jesus Christ, and shows you off as his. My son, my daughter whom I love, with you I am well pleased. Instead of treating us like good for nothing, instead, he picks you. He picks you to pick stones for him. Or in other words, he picks you, he chooses you to show him off. He picks you to show off the greatness, the glory of his grace. That's just amazing, isn't it? He would pick someone like me, pick people like us, to show off the greatness of God. And that's what he does. And I see you do that. I see you show off the grace and the greatness of God in so many neat ways. I know some of us are more on the quiet side, but I see it in you. You work to live with kindness and grace. And I hear it from you. How you pray that people would see your kindness and grace and recognize it's not yours, but it's his, from him. And I know that others of you are more on the bold side, and you are eager to live showing off the love of God, and you're not afraid to let people know it. To speak up about the love of God and get those conversations started instead of maybe waiting for someone to ask. I look and I see what? I see a people that are eager to show the love of God. I think of a young lady with a tattoo. A tattoo that gets people wondering, what's that about? And her answer points to Jesus. I think of so many moms and dads working to build memorials and monuments, markers in the lives of their children so that they know and they remember, look about Jesus. Look what kind of God you have. And I hear about how some of you young'uns, I hear you young'uns with big smiles on your faces, talking to each other and talking to your moms and dads. Look what our God can do. I've seen, I know, I've seen in family rooms and living rooms and kitchens, bedrooms, I think even bathrooms. I'm not sure about garages. How you have marked your houses. How you have marked your house, whether it's with a cross, with a picture of Jesus, how you have marked your house so the people inside and the people driving by and your guests who come recognize we've got something special here. We have God with us. And we think he's mighty special. I see you in so many different ways, picking stones and setting up those stones to show off your God. Look what our God can do. So let me tell you, I know that sometimes you go through all the work of trying to show that love and kindness. You go through the effort of setting up those monuments, those markers, those reminders, and sometimes it might say, does anybody notice? Does anybody remember? Does anybody care? Let me tell you, those stones that you pick and pile up for God, those ways that you show off the goodness, the grace of God, they bless me. And they bless the people around you. And they are part of God's gift to the world. You are part of God's gift to the world, showing off the greatness and grace of our God. May God bless you and generations after you to memorialize, to mark. Look what our God can do. Amen.